Hey, Christy, how are you? Happy Monday. Exactly. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. You got it. No problem. Okay, very good. Thank you. Any word on the Starlink? Josh, have you heard anything? Hey, Christy, no, they're not rescuing anybody. They're trying to just get the ride going again. You got it. At least so far. Here we go. Yeah, if you're scared of heights, hopefully you skipped this one, right, David? This is the Soul Spin attraction at Knott's Berry Farm. These folks have been stranded for approximately 1 hour, a little over 1 hour. We count roughly 20 passengers on board this ride here in the center of Fiesta Village. The surrounding attractions have come to a halt. You can see a boom basket has been lifted up to the ride. There is a mechanic on board there. They're trying to get the ride moving once again. Right now there have not been any efforts to rescue individual passengers, and there has not been an emergency response here. The park is handling this internally for now. They feel confident that they can get this ride moving, but you can see folks are growing a little bit impatient, although relatively calm. You can see lots of legs dangling. We don't see anybody hanging upside down per se, but the ride is stuck in a horizontal position, certainly uncomfortable and unnerving, to say the very least. But again, this has been going on for a little more than an hour, roughly 20 passengers, maybe a couple more, and they are not moving for now, guys. So those two just showed up about 2 or 3 minutes ago, and they immediately went to work trying to analyze the actual mechanics of the ride itself. Doesn't seem to be a whole lot of communication going on or any kind of a rescue effort whatsoever. Now, there is a battalion chief who has arrived on scene, I believe, from the Orange County Fire Authority, just to monitor the situation and make sure that additional aid is not needed. But as you can see, it is mostly park employees and park management who are handling this incident internally. And certainly, I would imagine there have been communications with those guests, if not by those two up there in the cherry picker, at least by folks down on the ground there. So it does appear that everybody's taking this in light. You can see nobody really panicking per se, but you can only imagine what it's like. Easy for me to say, right? You can only imagine what it's like to be on this ride. Once again, we're in the Fiesta Village section of the park, where there are other attractions in the vicinity, other roller coasters that have come to a complete stop. This has definitely become the center of attention here at the farm this afternoon. Yeah. Yeah, everybody's pretty much horizontal to varying degrees, if you will. That ride spins around in a 360 motion and then actually physically revolves around the center. So it's a palpitating ride when it is moving, but in this situation, it does appear that everybody's maybe not in the most comfortable position, but I would argue much better than being upside down with blood rushing to your head and having to worry about other kinds of health issues. Obviously, and hopefully, if you got on this ride, you were okay with heights and presumably in fairly good health. Yeah, and you see, I mean, there's a situation right there. Look at that person in the white T-shirt. You know, all of these folks are harnessed in, but it looks like, you know, some of them might be getting a little bit agitated and trying to shimmy out of that harness, which is probably the worst thing you could possibly do. You know, you'd want to keep your shoulders and laps secure by those harnesses that come down overhead. So, you know, as these people start to grow anxious, you might see some, maybe some odd behavior, if you will, but hopefully, you know, a lot of kids on this ride, obviously, so hopefully they can get this thing moving as soon as possible. Yeah, I mean, look, they're taking it in stride, but I just don't like seeing some of those arms coming from under the harness. It's kind of, it's really nerve-wracking to see that, especially like you said, if they're trying to reach for their cell phones to try and either communicate or maybe document this with their phone cameras. But it's exactly what they don't want to see down there. It is a little surprising to me that there's not more emergency apparatus at least standing by in place just in case, as a precaution. You would imagine that that might be a good idea. At one point, the fire department was on the way over here, and Knott's Berry Farm politely declined any assistance. As I mentioned, there is a battalion chief on the scene down there just monitoring the situation, but they must feel fairly confident that they can get this ride moving without any, without any major incident. It's the unexpected that I start to worry about as time goes on and the hours start to grow. Again, we're already in hour number 2 of this incident, and as time goes on here and the sun starts to go down, you can imagine that this might become slightly more scary. One would imagine that that determination will be made cooperatively between the fire department and the officials there at the park. This is private property, but of course they are, working in unison with, local and state laws, as a matter of fact, which regulate these rides. So one would imagine that if they feel the need to begin an actual rescue operation, for example, that there'll be units and resources ready when that time comes. Right now, they're hard at work trying to get this thing moving again, and I have a feeling they feel optimistic. Again, it's more of the unexpected that you start to think about the more you kind of take a closer look at what's going on in those individual seats. I could not tell you, but they certainly seem to know what they're doing. They don't seem to be making it up. I mean, they are fairly, expertly knowledgeable about each individual ride and attraction. So one would imagine there's a method to what we're seeing here. As to what exactly they are trying to do, I could not tell you, but it does look like they have now tethered the ride to somebody on the ground, and perhaps they may start spinning it manually, and they may start taking some of the riders closest to the ground off at some point. You would imagine at some point, if this drags on, that one by one, it may seem at first like the more dangerous route, but as time goes on, I think you have to start adjusting the thinking, right? Down there, they want to start, moving and being proactive if it doesn't look like that ride's going to start moving anytime soon, whether it's a power outage or whether it's some other mechanical issue that brought this to a grinding halt. It's certainly better than the alternative, like you said, David, being unable to stop the ride. That would be really the nightmare, right, for everybody. So again, or even one of the other roller coasters out here where you're stuck at a much higher altitude or potentially in a more precarious position where you actually start to worry about medical issues or just other factors. In this situation, it is probably one of the more tame rides here at Knott's Berry Farm, but it certainly seems to be the biggest thrill this afternoon. Manually cranking it. Yeah, I haven't noticed any movement as far as we could tell. What those cables are being used for really would be purely a guess on my part, whether it's to stabilize the ride or whether it's to start manually spinning it. It's just hard to say. I really would be guessing, but you can see they have hooked up the center. Yep, that's that center wheel there that the actual individual seats revolve around. And I'm sure as I said, I'm sure there's something to it. Of course, we'll continue to hover up here as this develops, we will bring you the very latest. Okay, copy that. Yeah, we counted about 22. I said at least 20. Copy that. Thank you. Got it. Very good. "15 seconds. Here we go. Yeah, we're starting to see a lot more activity in the last several minutes, David. You can see them cranking a tether that is now attached to the ride itself. You can see him cranking it. We're not sure exactly how that's going to help, but surely it does appear that they have a plan in place. We see a lot more workers on the scene down there attending to the situation. Again, there has not been an emergency response. All 22 passengers appear to be safe and calm. They are in a horizontal position as this soul spin has come to a grinding halt here in the Fiesta Village section of Knott's Berry Farm, a situation we're going to continue to follow for you throughout this newscast. And of course, as we notice any movement or any rescue operations, we will bring that to you live. Reporting live from Air 7, I'm Chris Christie, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Once again, as you join us live on ABC7.com and our 24/7 streaming channels, Chris Christie up in Air 7 continuing to follow this developing situation here at Knott's Berry Farm, where 22 passengers are stuck on board the Soul Spin ride here in the Fiesta Village area of Knott's Berry Farm. All of the surrounding attractions have also come to a pause. You can see workers down there on the ground now tethering the actual vehicle to the ground and appear to be coming up with some type of a plan to either get the ride moving once again or perhaps individually rescuing passengers one by one. We understand this has been going on for roughly 2 hours now, so patience is growing thin, but everybody appears calm, cool, and collected on this ride. They are in a horizontal position. Nobody appears to be upside down or in any distress as far as we can tell. There are about 6 arms to this ride with a handful of people on each spoke. You can see right there some folks trying to actually, we've seen at least 1 or 2 people, I should say, actually try and shimmy out of the harness, which is really ill-advised, but hopefully they are in a comfortable and secure position as the workers down below continue to try and get this ride moving once again. The Orange County Fire Authority is monitoring this situation, but right now there has not been an emergency response. Knott's Berry Farm handling the situation internally as they try to get this ride moving once again, but they have some variables to contend with, not the least of which is going to be daylight here in the next hour or so as the sun begins to go down, and let's just hope that they have a plan in place for that. Surely this area is well lit at night, but still rescue operations could become more complicated, especially in terms of actually getting equipment into this part of the park into position where they have to start, should they be in a position where they have to start undoing harnesses one by one. That would be the least desirable scenario. It certainly appears to be a situation they are trying to avoid. It seems to be that right now the focus is getting the ride moving again, even if it's manually, to bring those people down. You see lots of legs dangling, but everybody appears to be taking it in stride. 2.5, copy that. Can we get back low and do another low orbit? Okay. Have they? It's come down quite a bit, right? Yeah. Yeah, we've seen a lot of progress just in the last 2 minutes here, Ellen. You can see they have started to crank and pull that ride slowly lower to the ground. All of those folks in a much more upright position than they were, again, just a couple of minutes ago. And it does look like in a couple more minutes they may be level and almost completely down to the ground as they continue to treat the situation very gingerly. We don't know how this ride came to a stop or became stuck, but it does look like they have managed to unlock the ride and slowly bring the riders down towards ground level, at least much closer than they were earlier. They were hanging in a very precarious position for upwards of 2 hours, and now you can see they are just mere feet from the ground. Lots of park employees and management attending to the situation, ready to bring this thing to a resolution. Ellen, back to you. Yeah, that's right. There's a battalion chief down there from the fire department. The fire station, incidentally, happens to be right next door to Knott's Berry Farm here in Buena Park, just mere feet from the property, right on the west side of Knott's Berry Farm. There's the fire station right there. There are resources at the ready just in case, but the park has made very clear that looks like they've got this under control. They are handling this internally, and it does look like they are bringing those riders safely down towards the ground. No need for any rescue operations. I'm sorry, Christy, one more time. Copy. Look at the way they're walking. Copy. Yeah, once again, David, this is the Soul Spin attraction at Knott's Berry Farm, which has finally been lowered to the ground after 2 hours. 22 passengers stuck on this ride in a horizontal position. And just seconds ago, we've got video as the shoulder harnesses were released, and a flurry of guests immediately got up from those seats after being in a very uncomfortable position, again, for a couple of hours. Several of them appeared to be in some distress. Lots of folks hobbling off the ride. One woman appears to be unable to get up. She is now in a wheelchair, and there are other folks who have literally limped away. And you can understand why, especially if their legs and hips were dangling for so long, depending on which end of those spokes you were in. It could have been an extremely uncomfortable and dangerous situation, as a matter of fact. But even though it appears that everybody's okay, certainly many of these folks may have to get checked out, and obviously a major investigation will be conducted into what caused this ride malfunction. But fortunately, we can say that everybody has now exited the ride after a 2-hour ordeal, bringing Fiesta Village to a halt here at Knott's Berry Farm. Reporting live from Air 7, I'm Chris Christie, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. You got it. Sure thing, Mike. We'll do a beauty shot here into the sun.